One of the most common reactions I get when I show someone an ancient coin for the first time is something like, nah, there's no way something that old has come to our days in such good shape. This has to be some sort of modern reproduction. And, well, I can't blame them. How do you even authenticate a 1,000, 2,000 years old object? When we're talking about collectibles, this question of authenticity is always in our heads, and generally, every niche of collecting has a well-established way of authenticating objects. For example, certain types of bullion coins, precious metal coins, like the most recent Britannia coins. Since 2021, they come with anti-counterfeiting features on its surfaces, which are absurdly hard to replicate. Or a Rolex watch. It has highly accurate specifications on the manufacturing of all of its components. So, the internal movements, the proportions of the external casing, it's all incredibly hard to mimic in the exact same way as Rolex does. And of course, the blueprints, the know-how is still available. The knowledge on how to make these is still relatively new and can be accessed for the purpose of authenticating a piece. There are even some more indirect ways of authenticating stuff that are still fairly foolproof, like Morgan dollars, for example. They have been thoroughly studied by numismatists, so its weight, the position of every single minor feature of the coin, it has all been thoroughly registered. Every little detail of real coins has been studied in order to identify a real example and distinguish it from a reproduction. The fact these were made in factories with a fairly good degree of uniformity, of course, also helps to develop a pattern for what an authentic Morgan dollar is. But how about ancient coins? These were objects that were handmade, struck with dies, sculpted by hand, over 1,000 years ago. It's of course fairly more complicated, so let me explain how ancient coin collectors do it. You see, with ancients, of course, the very nature of what we're talking about, it represents like the issue of authentication becomes more problematic. We can't authenticate them based on any direct means because, well, there aren't any. The only way of knowing empirically that an ancient coin is authentic was if we could trace back a coin back to literally the time it left the mint, from the time it was money in ancient Rome or ancient Macedon or wherever it was made, and if you had a proven, unbroken change of registries from its owner from that time until our days. Such a thing sadly doesn't exist, and if it did, this would be probably the most expensive and desirable coin in the entire planet. Not only because of how fascinating this chain of provenance would be, but also because that coin could serve as a quote-unquote master key, a holy grail as the main reference for what an authentic coin was supposed to look like. The oldest proven provenance of ancient coins we know of comes from the Este family. This was a noble northern Italian family with a long tradition of numismatists. The collection most likely began around the 15th century, probably around 1420 by Leonello d'Este, and they had an unusual way of marking their coins. They carved a small oval indentation on the field of the coin and added a silver or gold inlay in it in the shape of a tiny eagle. These are highly desirable pieces. Collectors fight fiercely for one of these when they show up at auction. The provenance itself gives these coins appeal. Most collectors enjoy knowing a coin has been in collections for a long time, and the fact each of these coins have passed through the hands of dozens of important collectors throughout the centuries makes another very strong point, another very strong argument that we are talking about an authentic coin because a lot of eyes were laid upon it, However, if we want to be nitpicky, like very pedantic, can we say one of such coins from the Este family is authentic without a slither of a doubt? If we want to be 100% intellectually honest, no, we can't claim that. there is a remote chance that Leonello d'Este and the whole chain of collectors who owned certain coins from this collection might have been fooled by a very skilled counterfeiter. It is rather unlikely, but it is possible. Fortunately, we can come out of this intellectual standstill because we, as numismatists, we are standing over the shoulders of giants in this hobby. My friend Damian Salgado from Numis channel says numismatics isn't just a hobby, it's a science, and I 100% agree with him. Today we have access to thousands of books and articles written by thousands of numismatists who studied coins from collections, treasures, casual finds, and all of this literature and knowledge is the fruit of the observation of hundreds of millions of ancient coins. We're talking about a knowledge diligently developed for the last at least 5 centuries. And all of this wealth of accumulated information, of course, exists despite of the fact that we can't track a single coin back to ancient Rome, for example. It's better if I illustrate what I mean. So let's take a look at this tetradrachma as an example. We can't trace back one of such coins directly to the ancient Greek world and use it as a template to what an authentic tetradrachma should look like. But we, and I mean we as all numismatists in the last 5 centuries who have ever published and shared their knowledge about coins, we have identified patterns, certain types of coins displaying certain types of patterns. A certain type of ancient coin will have a certain type of artistic style. It will have a certain weight, certain visual features on its surface and its flan that are the result of a specific type of manufacturing technique. The surface of the metal these are made out of corrodes in certain ways, develops certain types of patinas, and the discovery of these patterns come from, of course, centuries of painstaking observation of all kinds of coins. This information was then, as I said, diligently condensed, first mainly through books and by sharing it with other collectors, and nowadays by books as well, YouTube videos, online databases, online forums, and we are still in this never-ending process of slowly replicating and refining that universal knowledge with each passing generation of numismatists. That's why even if I make dozens of videos here showing you what are the telltale signs of a fake ancient coin, by far the best way of detecting fakes is by being a good numismatist yourself. Sheer exposure to lots and lots of coins, preferably coins that have been previously determined to be authentic by someone more experienced, and this will slowly develop this mental pattern in your head of what a good coin should look like. If you collect Roman denarii, for example, you will get to know its average weight, the fact they were struck and how this leaves certain marks on its surface, how each denarius from each time period has a certain portrait style, the letters on its legends look a certain way and it evolves throughout the centuries, so on and so forth. As I said, patterns. So when you come across, for example, a coin that looks like it was cast rather than struck, this will make all kinds of alarm bells ring in your head, like, oh, that's a denarius is not supposed to be like that, because it's outside of those patterns. That's basically how it works. So it ends up being that learning how to authenticate ancient coins is really a matter of immersion. There's no better way around it. Apart from reading books on the types of coins you enjoy and looking at photos and videos online of coins over and over and over, you need to engage your senses. I have made a playlist for beginners, which you can see by going in my channel page at the playlist section, but nothing replaces direct exposure to coins and talking to other collectors. Handle lots of coins and ask questions about them. Go to coin shows, go to coin shops, ask dealer questions. If they know what's good for their business, they will guide you. If you have a coin club near you, wonderful. Absolutely join them. Ask questions, as dumb as they may sound. The more you handle coins, the more you exercise this sort of like this mental muscle by sheer exposure to coins in these controlled environments where it's in people's best interest to only handle authentic coins. You will naturally develop a pattern on your head of what this coin should look like. I know this sounds a bit like pseudoscience, especially when you look at modern coin collecting where they have some like very precise, very specific ways of authenticating and grading a coin. It simply doesn't work like that with ancient coins. It has a certain degree of finesse and subjectiveness that comes with it. It's just a natural thing of the hobby. Authentication is mostly evidence-based. It's not like direct or indirect. It doesn't work this way. So, since now you know there's no like easy way of authenticating ancient coins, this inevitably leads me to the ancient coin market. So, how does it operate, right? How does a market which sells these unique items work? Items which can only be authenticated in this, at first view, somewhat esoteric, evidence-based system. It's actually fascinating because the whole equation of what gives a coin, for example, its value, it's so unique in this hobby. Like a bronze coin can be as expensive as multiple times its weight in gold. On the other hand, some gold coins aren't worth much more than their bullion value. It all depends on like historical significance, the demand amongst collectors, the grade, of course, although grading works completely differently with ancient coins, and grade alone doesn't have such an extreme influence in a coin's value compared to like the modern coin market. And of course, the whole auction scene in ancient coin collecting is very unique as well. It's a bit anxiety-inducing, in my personal opinion, but I really enjoy the environment of a live auction. It's like I'm in one of those Victorian art auctions you see in old illustrations. In any case, in regards to the question of authenticity, this market is upheld by three main pillars, I would say: knowledge, trust, and good faith. I think I have already explained the knowledge part, although maybe experience would be a better term. There are no reputable ancient coin dealers who don't know a lot about coins. Many have been collectors themselves for decades. There are more and more dealers paying attention to ancient coins. Like the US market, for example, is in particular has been growing a lot. And it's understandable that many dealers focused on US coins who want to start selling ancients. They have this tendency of like outsourcing their authentication part to NGC by just selling slabbed coins. But remember, they don't guarantee their authenticity. NGC is like not a panacea. And at least up to the time I'm publishing this video, there are no grading companies that guarantee it in like a legally binding way. So if I could make a recommendation to any dealers watching, I invite you to become more knowledgeable on ancient coins in general, because it's by far the best way to build a solid reputation, to avoid fakes, of course. And I mean, they're awesome. They deserve the time, the effort, and the brain power. It's a fascinating hobby. And actually, you know what? Sorry to go on a tangent, but I think this is a good opportunity to call everyone's attention to the defense of our hobby. Have you ever noticed there are no YouTube channels focused on ancient coins from countries like Italy, Greece, Turkey, Egypt, the countries where the coins come from? That's because ancient coin collecting has been nearly killed off in these places. Yes, the preservation of historical sites should absolutely be enforced. Looting should be forbidden. However, most ancient coins are not found in archaeological contexts, but in hoards far from any sites. The proof of this comes from the portable antiquity scheme in England. However, these countries just went with the easier option of putting a blanket ban on everything. Some have banned the ownership of ancient coins completely, some have imposed heavy restrictions. And there's a reason why most world-renowned dealers and specialists that can authenticate a coin from you come from places like the US, the UK, Germany, France, And these are also the countries where the most academic research and advancements on numismatics are made. That's because numismatic research has always been and will always be done mostly by collectors, by private individuals like you and me. Archaeologists, in the majority of cases, are not interested in studying coins, at least not to the extent, to the depth that we do. And sadly, it is a reality that they constantly lobby for restrictions on our hobby to be enforced. So even if you live in a place where personal freedoms are upheld, don't take that freedom for granted. Keep an eye out for any legislation trying to be passed that restricts your rights to own, study, collect, and advance this hobby. It's more important than you imagine. You are carrying the legacy of this 500-year-old science. You are part of something incredible here, and you would be ashamed to see it die out. The next pillar of the ancient coin market would be trust. As we've discussed, there's no direct way of tracing an ancient coin to antiquity in order to have empirical proof of what a real coin looks like. So even if you only buy coins like with the most reputable dealers on the planet, you only buy coins with provenance tracing back to multiple different renowned collectors, so you have like a trace record of different numismatists who once owned this coin and considered it to be authentic because you are for some reason absolutely terrified of paying for a fake, there will always still be that tiny little bit of uncertainty poking its ugly head out, and you will need to have a little bit of faith in the coin being authentic, simply because another person told you it is authentic. This trust pillar generates a huge responsibility on the seller's part. There's not only the obvious part of not selling anything fake, of course, but I think there should be a shared sense of accountability. Whether you are part of a dealers association or not, if you see something like someone selling coins of questionable authenticity, this market simply cannot withstand a crisis of confidence. You should, in a respectful, graceful way, point out any bad actors and call out any coins that raise reasonable doubt. It's not ungentlemanly of your part. It's just good business practice. And once again, see yourself as part of something big. You are helping move a market with 5 centuries of history. You aren't trading like meme stocks or shit coins. Let's help the people who will collect these ancient coins for the next 500 years, you know? And finally, we get to the good faith side. You see, as good as any dealer might be, as good of a numismatist as you may be, you can have like a fantastic eye for detecting forgeries. There's a very high chance you will come across a fake coin in your collection. It isn't a massive issue, but it is there, and it's a bit inevitable. That's why an environment of good faith, humility might be another good term, is essential. On the dealer's part, I know you need to move capital. I know operating a business is costly. Sometimes you need to spend the money you have on like a good resale opportunity that shows up. You need to act quick. And the perspective of like having a customer from a couple years back come to you asking for a refund as he found a coin he bought from you to be of questionable authenticity. This, of course, can be very damaging for a small shop, for example. But there's no way around it. You need to give a lifetime guarantee authenticity to your coins, which doesn't expire for as long as you are in business. For me, that's non-negotiable. Admittedly, I don't know where I would draw the line in this questionable authenticity point. Like, how much questionable is questionable enough? Some people say dealers should offer refunds based on all cases. So if you shared your coin on Instagram and a couple of people question its authenticity with reasonable arguments, and that was enough for you to start questioning its authenticity, that should be the line, like no question asked, full refunds. While others think that after a certain time has passed, the buyer needs to acquire some sort of expert's opinion, like a written statement from another reputable dealer. I can see that generating some ill will between dealers. So I don't know how it would work. I just know that, for example, some dealers use NGC's opinion as a baseline. So if a coin doesn't get graded and gets returned as non-genuine, they will accept the coin back. Frankly, I'm not a dealer, so if you sell ancient coins, you could share what your policies on return are in the comment section below. But I think at a minimum, there should be a wide margin for returns with no questions asked policy. Like a much wider margin compared to other markets. I'm talking about months at least, if not over a year from the time of sale. So, the initial objective with this video was to address a really surprising result from one of my community pools. I asked, is ancient collecting hard? And nearly a quarter of my subscribers said they don't dare to start collecting because they think it is too hard. That was surprising. I mean, of course, the topic of authenticity must be a major one of such difficulties. I've read a considerable number of people in the comments saying they simply can't stand this element of trust, of evidence-based authentication this hobby has. Maybe it's just a lower tolerance to risk on their part. It's understandable. And I actually think this video, it maybe did not help much in putting them at ease. It might even have confirmed many of these people's fears. But I mean, I could lie. I could tell you it's 1000% risk-free, that the market is so mature, well-developed, and honest, that the probability of coming across a fake is minute. But I would rather recommend you enter this hobby with a healthy dose of caution and with the reassurance that you can absolutely assemble a wonderful collection of great and authentic coins. This can be the hobby of your life, but it requires large doses of patience, it requires intellectual effort on your part, but it's a great pastime and I encourage you to give it a try. Alright, now I want to hear from you. How do you authenticate ancient coins? Would you like to add any tips to the beginners? Let us know in the comment section below. And I hope you enjoyed once again this chat we've just had. Leave a like and consider subscribing if you did. Consider becoming a channel member. Happy collecting, and I'll see you soon. Let me give a special thank you to all of my amazing channel members and Patreons for their generous support. This channel would not be the same without your help. And if you would like to be part of this list, have early access to my videos when they are uploaded to YouTube, and a series of other perks, make sure to check out my Patreon page and my members tab on YouTube. Thank you very much.